Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if that doesn't work, you can also check our website, which is behind me. It's www.blainesworld.net. You can find past shows. You can find information about future shows as well. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my two guests today, and they are Rowan. It's Rowan Bishop.
Yeah.
Is the last name? Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And Allison Starling. And you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay. I have to tell you, these two are amazing folks in that what they've done at Hendersonville Theater is just going to knock your socks off. And again, compliment to both of you before we begin is I think I've seen just about every show the last several years there. And the incredible thing, it's getting better and better. You know, I don't know how you're doing it, but wow. And so talk a little bit about that. Ron, I'll start with you, I guess. You're originally from what area?
I was born and raised in the Greenville, South Carolina area, so just over the border there.
But you're relatively new, you were telling me off the air, to Hendersonville Theater. Is that correct? You've only been with the
Yes.
theater for how long?
My first show as an actor at Hendersonville Theater was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee last year. Actually was on the podcast for that one as well. And then I started working at the theater full time in January of 2023, so just a short time.
Now, before you're in 25th, the Spelling Bee, which I saw and enjoyed, you had acted before where you lived elsewhere?
Yes, yeah, I did a lot of theater in the Greenville area. Actually got my degree in theater there, and was working in that area before actually Allison invited me up to Hendersonville, and I kind of fell in love when I got here. So.
And the rest has been history. Do you
Right.
remember the very first show you ever did?
Ooh, difficult question. I would probably have been like a church musical, like when it's Christmas and you're playing an angel or a shepherd or something. Was probably somewhere around that.
Did you start as a kid?
I did some church things and some school things as a kid, and my first like big production where I was taking theater seriously was in college, and that was Beauty and the Beast.
Because you may remember I've shared this idea with several people, and I still want Hendersonville to do it, but I want everybody to recreate their very first role, as a fundraiser,
Sure.
Allison, so that you could be, maybe you were a tree or something like that, in third grade or something, but you started taking it seriously in college then. And
Yeah.
that was your first role, Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, I played Maurice, the father.
Okay, but that's exciting. And then kind of the bug hit you?
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I tell people that I kind of discovered the theater through that show, and I just never left. I just started kind of getting involved with acting and backstage and all of those things, and just took in as much as I could like a sponge.
And we should mention that too, because that's one of the things I kind of admire about you, that you do about 27 different things, it seems like, at Hendersonville. It's the question I ask, and I'll ask Allison the same question, but I'm looking, and I don't see roller skates behind me, I come to Hendersonville and I see you everywhere, Rowan. You're taking tickets, you're greeting people, you're then in the show, and then you come out. It keeps you busy though, doesn't it?
We definitely stay on our feet, I think.
Okay.
But things need to be done, and it's one of those things that when you love it as much, and I can maybe speak for both of us here, when you love it as much as we both do, like we're happy to fill whatever roles need to be filled.
But it's so exciting to see that. It's like you have now a great team, it seems like, and you're all kind of working in this together. I'll turn then to Allison as part of that team. And Allison, I've known you, I guess, at Hendersonville longer then, because you've been there since how long?
I think the first I think the first time I was involved with the theater was maybe around 2017. Seems right.
And
So
what was your role? What was your involvement then?
well, I was costume designing for a show. They did Stage Kiss, and I think that was in 2017. And that was the first time I was involved. And then I think the first time we met was Nonsense, which was like a year and a few months ago. So and that was like I accidentally fell into that show. And then like surprise, I was in that show and then never left. So but I think that's where we met.
I think so. The very first time, the question I asked Roland, the same thing too. Prior to that, had you acted or been involved in theater in any way?
Yes, I have been performing in theater, doing dance, since I was like 5, and did a bunch of theater. I started out at South Carolina Children's Theater when I was little, and have been doing theater my whole life. Went to school, started out as a musical theater major, and then ended up switching to design, and just uh, has been my whole life. I mean, people, talk about their lives as like, well, when I was in the 7th grade, or when I look back at my life, I go, oh, that part of my life I was doing, what was I doing then? I was doing Funny Girl. Like that's how I think about my life, kind of. So,
And same thing I asked Roland, do you remember your first role?
um, I mean, outside of, I kind of have a similar background to Rowan. I think probably it was something at church, but outside of that, I think the first play I ever did was Charlotte's Web, and the first musical I ever did was The Secret Garden, and those were like back to back, I think.
Because one of the things I don't get sad at, but when I come to Hendersonville and I don't see you in a play, because I love seeing you on stage, but half the time I'll see you running around behind stage and doing, all these other things you do at Hendersonville. So I guess when you're not acting, you're doing something else.
Oh yeah, I mean, I I've I don't we don't really stop. I mean, if we're not on stage, which I feel like last year I was on stage a good bit, and then I just kind of took a little bit of a break this year. Of course, I'm doing this show, but and did Rock of Ages. But when I'm not on stage, it kind of just depends on what the need is. If costume design, I'll do costume design. If it's, which part of my job at the theater is running front of house, and so if I'm not in a show often, I'll be running front of house, or just whatever needs to be done.
Painting
So
a backdrop.
And so your official title at Hendersonville is what?
company manager. I'm also the costume shop manager.
Okay, in your spare time. And Roland, your official title at
I am the production manager.
okay, and again, compliment to both of you that whenever I see you all over the place. It's not just, like Roland especially amazed me. One time I was seeing a show and I see you on stage and I said, that's cool. Then intermission, you're doing something else. And then you're running behind stage again. But that's really cool that you both do that. And you both do it, I think, amazingly well. And let's segue that, if we can, folks, into the upcoming show. And it starts, I guess, in a couple of weeks still.
Yes.
But what show is that, Roland?
It's Young Frankenstein, based on the Mel Brooks movie with Gene Wilder.
Okay. And I guess we're saying if people are interested in something very serious and heavy, they shouldn't see this. Is that correct?
Maybe not.
This is not the one.
Come expecting to have a good time.
I'm telling you, people are going to be in a real treat on this. How did the theater choose Young Frankenstein?
Oh, this was chosen before we were really on staff.
Yeah, I think that it was just like, I don't know how they've been doing it over, in the past years, but last year and this year they just had a play selection committee,
Yeah.
and they knew they wanted to put some kind of Halloween-ish themed musical in the slot, and there were a couple different ones they were throwing around, and landed on this one since it was sort of a I don't know, I think a lot of people had been wanting to do it. So
Yeah. Well, and in contrast to last year, which, if you saw The Haunting of Hill House, that Allison was the lead in, was very heavy and had a lot of more psychological thriller kind of vibes. So to contrast that with a big, fun, flashy, showy musical is a fun choice.
Now, had both of you been familiar with the musical beforehand?
Oh yeah.
Familiar with the
Allison,
movie, yeah.
right, but the movie, right, wasn't a musical.
No, it wasn't. No,
Right.
Allison knew the musical.
Oh, you knew the musical?
Oh, this is one of my favorite musicals of all time. I've been wanting to be in it for years, and I've wanted to play the role that I have is Igor, and that's the role that I've wanted to play for years. So I'm thrilled that I get to actually do that now. So,
And she's awesome.
Yeah. Had you ever seen the show before?
I have not seen it live except for a bootleg Broadway copy on YouTube. But I've listened to the soundtrack 100,000 times, and the movie is one of my favorite movies. So,
And like you said, I've listened to the soundtrack, maybe not as many times, but I think it's just a terrific soundtrack. It's just a
Hmm.
terrific show. And I guess, Ron, I'll ask you for the benefit of the folks who don't know the show, Young Frankenstein,
Sure.
can you give kind of the Reader's Digest version, keeping it under maybe 2 hours? We won't tell the whole
Sure,
show, but
yeah.
keep the
Let's
summary
see.
under 2 hours.
Under 2 hours. Let's see. Okay. So it tells the story of after the death of Victor von Frankenstein, the famous Frankenstein. It tells the story of his grandson, who I actually have the honor of playing, who is a dean of anatomy at a school of medicine in New York, and comes over to Transylvania to settle his grandfather's estate. And he thinks he's just going to be there for a couple days and just take care of the money side of things and then go back to his life in New York. And he ends up, let's just say, chaos ensues, and all of the fun, crazy Transylvania mania happens over while he's there. So it's a lot of fun.
It really is, and I won't give it away, but I'll just mention that we can mention a tip off that there's an actual operation you see on stage that you
Yeah,
actually perform the operation, and it's pretty
yeah.
impressive. And I know because I think I told you off the air that I've been in the show several years ago as the patient, and so it's you actually see that right in front of you. You'll see it, and talk a little bit, Allison, if you would too, about the music, because again, a lot of people know the movie, but how would you describe the music?
Well, the music is really fun, first of all, but it what I like about the musical is that it really takes almost verbatim a lot of what happens in the movie and then applies it to the music. And so like a lot of times you might get a musical based off of a movie or a book or something, and it maybe steers away from the source material, but it's really fun with this show how much it does connect with the source material and has a lot of overlap. So I really enjoy that about the music. There's a lot of throwbacks to jokes from the movie and things like that. But the music is just really fun and makes you want to dance. And yeah, I don't know. It's a good time.
How do you respond to people, and this always bothers me a little bit, who say they like theater, but they don't like musicals, and
We were
I
just
can't
We
believe
talking
were
about
people,
just talking about
well,
this
yeah,
actually
I can't
last
believe
night.
people say that though, Rowan, so
yeah.
fill me in on the conversation that you were having.
I'll let you take this one.
Well, I mean, I think what I said in the car last night was when someone tells me they don't like musicals, I just say, "Well, you haven't seen the right one," because I just think there's a musical out there for everyone,
Yeah.
and a lot of people will be like, "Well, I just don't like that they just randomly start singing for no reason," and I would say I don't think that's the case in Young Frankenstein. I think there's always a reason for the singing to begin, and it makes sense with the flow of the story, and it's not a random thing. It moves the story along.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Well, even moving this sort of along, I'm just in my mind seeing some of the group scenes are just fascinating, where everybody gets together and, it's just great. But I hear the same thing, Allison and Rowan, when people say, they don't like drama, for example. They don't like and I used to say this, Rowan, they don't like a one-man play. And you don't like one-man play because you haven't seen a good one-man play, but a one-man play can be great, or a two-person, three-person. But this,
Sure.
talk a little bit about this show, though. It's certainly not a one-man play. How many people in the cast, Rowan?
There are,
About.
I'm counting so I don't say it incorrectly. I believe there are 15 of us. We have our principals are amazing. We have a wonderful ensemble. They've all been working just super, super hard. Most of us are tap dancing at some point during the show. But we have the ensemble is about half of our cast is ensemble members, meaning they all play, 6 or 7 different characters. But it's made up of um, Lauren Powers, Stan Peel, Brenda Craig, Kaylee Blasius, Gina McDaniel, Shanna Greenlee, Mike Yao, Lynn Morton, and Josh Luria. Some of them have more like featured or like smaller principal roles as well, but they just create a lot of our like villagers in those scenes, and
they never leave the
they
stage, it
never
feels
leave
like.
the stage.
Well, let me ask you this, Rowan, too, and you've done it in your career, I guess, Allison as well. But is that tough for you playing, like when you have several roles? In other words, I have enough trouble remembering one role, one person, but like in the ensemble, some of them play different roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
I
tough?
think it's I think so. I think that an ensemble is the most important role in a show, because you really don't get to stop if you take a second to breathe off stage. You're changing costumes to go back on to do something else. And if anyone's familiar with the show, people kind of joke with me that I don't leave the stage, and I am on for a good bit, and I happen to have a lot of lines. But at the same time, I really genuinely believe that everybody else in the show does just as much work as I'm doing with switching characters and switching costumes and remembering different entrances. And it's really such a team effort. It's not really like there's one or two big roles and everybody else is supporting. Everybody has to work together to tell the story.
I think I once asked you this question again off the air, but what was the most number of roles you've ever had in one play?
Oh, you have asked me this before. Let
Yeah.
me see if I can remember. Oh yes. So, and I might have mentioned this when you asked last time. I did a play, a Neil Simon play called The Good Doctor.
Right. Yeah, that was the one.
And yeah, and I think in that play I took on 4 characters, which is not even necessarily that many, but that's the most that I've done personally.
So you've never done any of the tuna shows yet?
I have not. No.
Okay. Yeah. Can you
Now
imagine?
Victoria and Jonathan have, and
Yeah.
it was crazy to watch. They were just on and off and on and off.
Can you imagine? But yeah, you've always impressed me when I've seen you in more than one role. You have the ability, and I just love it. Each one is different. You know, I say, hey, that guy looks familiar, but it's not Rowan. You know, it's somebody else, and you really hit that well. How about you, Allison? Have you ever played more than one role at a show?
I'm trying to think if I was sitting here thinking if I had before. I think the closest thing I've come to playing multiple characters is just like when I've been in an ensemble, and had multiple roles within the ensemble. And I think I was excuse me, I think I was in A Christmas Carol in high school, and that one I think I had a lot of roles, maybe like 6 or 8,
Mm.
but it's not like they had lines or anything. It was more just like switching into different, where the ensemble was needed. But I would love to do something where I could do a bunch of different roles someday. That's definitely on my list of things I would like to do in the next few years. So
You have a show you want to do it in?
well, I'm trying to think. I had one on my list that had just recently heard about that looked really interesting, and I can't, now that we're sitting here talking, I can't think of what it is. But something similarly, maybe not exactly like different roles, but I would love to do 39 Steps,
Oh yeah.
which is sort of the same kind of idea. Not exactly like different roles, but you wear a lot of different hats throughout the show, and I think that would be very, very fun. So
And the best for that, I don't know if he's told you, but Mike Yao just did that recently.
we saw
Oh,
it.
did
It
you?
was really good.
Boy, did he kill it. And that's a tough
Mm-hmm.
thing to do. Boy, he was great in that. And Roland, I'll ask the same thing too, in terms of down the road. Do you have a dream role that you've always wanted to play?
Oh, so many. As far as such a difficult question. As far as like an opportunity to do lots of varying different things on stage, I would love to revisit the song cycle "Songs for a New World," which is a Jason Robert Brown piece where you
Right.
get to tell a bunch of different kind of connected but unconnected stories. Um, there's things like that I love when you get to explore the same theme from the concept or from the perspective of different characters within, and have a moment with each.
Do you have a preference in terms of what you do, a musical or drama or comedy? Do you have a preference?
Oh, I love it all. I love to do musicals and be able to sing and stretch those muscles. And I am not, unlike Allison, I'm not a dancer by like nature. So the opportunity to learn more dance and choreography and get better at that, I will always take. Um, but there's also just such a magic to being in a straight play and diving into the world of just a character in a way that is more, it feels less, it's just as theatrical but it feels less musical. There's a magic to that as well.
How about Allison? Do you have a preference as to what kind of play you're in?
Um, I think a year ago, I would have said I was just a musical theater girl and that was it. And then I got the opportunity to be in Hill House last fall, and it sort of gave me the opportunity to explore a character that was like very psychological and upsetting and dark. And I was like, wait, I have to do this again. So now I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat. I think I like it all. I don't know if I could choose, but I definitely would love to do another role that's a little bit psychological, and it's hard work in a different way. Whereas when you're in a musical, you kind of put in this physical work, and like if it's a comedy, especially like finding the physical comedy, like what I'm doing right now, and learning choreography and the vocals and everything. But then when you do something like Hill House, it's like a mental workout, and it's a different kind of hard work that is really, really fun and really fulfilling. So I don't know. I like it all.
Ron, I cut you off before, but you mentioned the ensemble cast, but you could talk a little bit about who else is in this play, aside from
Yeah,
you
our
and
principal
Allison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our principal cast is amazing as well. Many of them are good friends of mine, which is like a happy coincidence, I think. As with the ensemble, I think I just love this cast
The cast
overall.
is
It's
really
just
great.
really good. But we have starring as Inga, who is my little, she's my laboratory assistant. But that is a good friend of ours, Annika Knudsen. And then if anyone's familiar with the movie, or if you've been in the show before, Elizabeth Benning, who is Dr. Frankenstein's fiance at the beginning of the show, and then she comes back in later. That is Tiffany Boone. If
Okay,
you saw
great.
Rock of Ages, she was in that. Um, we've got Mike as Victor and Mr. Hilltop, and I mentioned Josh and Lynn. Josh is playing Inspector Kemp, and Len is playing the hermit, the blind hermit.
Right, and again,
And then
their last names Josh and
Josh Luria and Lynn Morton.
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Karen Covington Yao, who is Mike's wife, is a powerhouse of a performer. If you've ever seen Karen perform, she's absolutely incredible. And she's playing Frau Blucher. And then we have our monster, who is going to be played by Matt Wade. If you
Okay.
saw,
Great choice for a monster. I
he
can imagine.
is so funny. He's actually just currently still in The Tempest at Montford Park, up in Asheville. And he just is like, he's playing Caliban in The Tempest, if you're familiar with The Tempest. So he's playing a monster now, and he's going to just switch gears and play a different type of monster, I guess, in Young Frankenstein.
And you mentioned Matt, and it just impresses me not only with him, but everybody else, how you folks do like a whole bunch of different things at one time too, because he's in this play rehearsing, and he's in another play. Have either of you two ever been in 3 plays at once, performing, rehearsing, and then reading for a third one? Have you ever had to do that yet?
Probably. I feel like I have at some point. I think about when I was transitioning from high school into my college career, and I want to say I was still had one foot in the door at the theater I was working at in high school, and I was starting on things in college, and I was working on several projects at once there, I know. But it's a little, it's not something I would choose to do very often.
This is so impressive me, Allison, that actors can do that, in terms of let me see if I can get rid of that phone. They can do that at the same time. It's just incredible that they can be rehearsing, performing, like a Matt Wade as an example. And that's a big role. It's not like a small role. So
Right.
he must really be moving back and forth from Montford to Hendersonville and back and forth. He's keeping himself pretty busy.
Making it happen for sure.
Well, for sure. Talk a little bit, Rowan, too, about how long the process is, because one of the things I admire about the both of you and all performers as well is that you it's not just like you go to a movie and it's a 3-hour movie and you're done with it, you see it. But an actor, you've been working on this one for how long?
This process, I believe we were given 8 weeks to rehearse.
8 weeks. And so why I so support live theater and encourage people to do the same thing too, because people don't realize how much time you put into it. So it's not just 8 weeks, but within the 8 weeks, what's a typical rehearsal schedule?
It depends on the show. This one is musically is a lot, and we had Our ensemble is wonderful, but we are a bit small as an ensemble, so there's a lot of musical parts that we had to learn and fill with maybe not as many people as we might would have had in another situation, just circumstantial. So we and then learning choreography, and there's a big tap number, and also blocking all of the scenes that aren't music or dance. We've been rehearsing pretty much 6 days a week for this show.
Mhm.
Um,
This
You know,
has
and
been
just
one of the most intense rehearsal schedules that
yeah,
I've ever had, at least at Hendersonville.
but I shake my head at that, how much time you put into it, you know, and the show unfortunately only has what, how long is the run? 3 weeks?
Three
yes, yeah,
weeks.
three
Okay.
weekends.
And I should encourage people, and we'll mention that as well, Rowan, now, take it tickets early because again, lovely theater, but it's not that many seats. How many seats in the theater?
We have 117, 115 if we have ushers sitting in the house.
Okay, and so that's not a lot of seats. And already I'll just give a heads up to some people, if they want to see this show, everybody says it all the time, Allison, but this is really true this time, is that tickets are really going fast. You know, I've
Yeah.
looked at ticket sales,
Mhm.
especially if you want to see a Sunday afternoon, for example,
Yep.
very, very tough to get tickets.
Yeah, matinees sell very, very quickly, and then even the ones that aren't matinees, I wanna say, like, if you wanted, like, a front and center or a center section seat, I think those are mostly gone at this point.
And points out again, I think, to the work of both of you and also other people at Hendersonville. And we should mention, in terms of Hendersonville, give a shout out to, I'll let you do it, to Victoria. You want to
Yeah,
mention,
Victoria Lambert.
and her role is what?
She's our artistic director.
Okay, and just really put together not only a great season, but we'll talk about the upcoming season as well. But just talk a little bit, Rowan, if you would, about some of the shows you've just done recently. And I think I've seen every one, and they all knock my socks off. Talk about the current. You actually done two things. So you have a bunch of shows, but you also now have a bunch of mini concerts or performances as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, we've
Yeah, what's that
sorry.
all about?
Well, we they started the concerts. Technically, this was the first full season of concert series. We call it our HT Hometown Sound, and typically it's music that people from the area want to hear. We try to cater to our community and our audience. So it's a lot of bluegrass and some country, and we had an Irish band come around St. Patrick's Day. And they're just great nights to come and listen to music, be it local or from a bit farther out, and just do concert nights. And they're very intimate, smaller settings, obviously, because we only have the 115 seats. But it's been really good. We actually have a concert happening on Saturday that I believe is sold out.
Sold out, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we won't tell people to get tickets; they can't. But what's that concert?
That will be Mac Arnold. He was here in February.
Mhm.
He was here in February, and it sold out in days in February, and people were calling saying, "We need to get tickets. We need a standby list. You gotta."
We had like a
Uh,
30 to 50 people
yeah,
standby list, I think,
yeah.
last time.
So we had him back in September to try to give those people an opportunity to come and see him. So he's
If
great.
you can, if you would just kind of mention some of the other shows you've done, say within the past several months. Again, I think I've seen just about every one of them, but they've all been really good and different. What was this past season like?
This season, I feel like it was really diverse. We really kind of
Mhm.
were all over the place in a good way. We started with Calendar Girls,
Okay,
which
amazing. Yeah.
thank you,
That
thank
really was
you.
such a good show. I was really proud of that. I wasn't in it, but I was so proud of it. Like, just our team as a whole putting that show together.
Yeah, the ladies who, I mean, really, it's their story. They were able to um, just work together in such an incredible way. And if anyone's familiar with the show, it does the ladies pose naked for a calendar to raise money for a cancer wing in a hospital in their town. And I was able to play the photographer for the calendar.
Right.
So I got to know those ladies pretty well, and just in a the most lovely sense. It was just a wonderful, wonderful
Well,
performance.
that's when I was thinking of. I remember, yeah, I'm speaking to Roland before the show, and he's doing whatever he's doing. And all of a sudden, I see him in the show, you know, and again, to your credit, a small role, but you hit it. You know, it was really good. That role, it just you made it right. It's not a lot of lines in the role, but you really had fun with it.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
And what's cool about that show, and I'll lead into the other shows you did this year, is every time I see now a show at Hendersonville, and I say to myself, self, this is like the best thing they've done, or one of the best things. But then the next show is going to top it. So after Calendar Girls was what?
Yeah, after Calendar Girls was Trillium,
Trillium was
correct?
after that. I
Yeah,
think.
Trillium was an original work by Karen Ruetz. She lives in Georgia. And I actually had the opportunity and the honor to assistant direct that and stage manage that show. The director is a good friend of mine, Lois Hage. She lives in Greenville. And we did the set design together and were able to really work on, that was kind of a passion project, kind of became our baby through that process. It was absolutely wonderful.
And then after that was?
After that was the Savannah Sipping
Savannah
Society.
Sipping
So you
Society.
take that one.
Well, so Beth Norris and I, Beth Norris was the director. I assistant directed for Savannah Sipping Society, and we just had the most fun. We had, I think, an all-female team, for that show, which was really great. And getting to work together to put that show up was, it's one of my fondest memories, I think, of being at Hendersonville Theater, and the cast was incredible. So yeah, I don't know what else to say.
And if I can give a shout out to one other thing about that show, I think I've told you, is I thought the stage was just brilliant on that show.
Beth Norris designed that set as well. And she does a really good job. She had a really, she told me her vision for the set, and I was like, babe, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. She was like, no, I want to raise the stage. I want to do these big hanging windows. And I was like, what do you mean? And then Don started building it, and I was like, oh no, I get it. Okay, cool. So
and Don, who?
So Don Schwartz, he
okay.
works for us at the theater. He builds all of our sets. We just hand him pictures, and he goes, oh yeah, I can do that, and puts it together. So,
but again, a shout
great.
out to him. That just knocked my socks off when I saw that stage, you know. And I don't ordinarily pay attention to a lot to stages, but that was really unusual for a comedy. And then was there anything after that?
Yeah, so the next big show after that was our big summer musical, Rock of Ages.
Oh yeah.
Which is hard to forget.
Well, again, here's another show, Rowan, that I had no expectation of. You know, I have to tell you up front, especially, and I guess you heard this from other people, the movie was okay, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, I didn't love it, but boy, did I love that show. It was so much fun, though. And you know, it's just that was a big show to put on too, wasn't it, Allison?
It was huge. Yeah. I don't think it's been a while since we've had a cast that big. Our set was massive. It was for a lot of us, being musical theater performers, doing the like rock music was something that we weren't super familiar with. So it was really, there was a learning curve for sure. But it was so much fun. Way out of my comfort zone at the start, but I had a blast. I had so much fun.
Yeah, just a lot of fun. And kudos also, I know cost factors are a key thing in this, but that had a live band in it too, right?
Yes.
Which I just
our
loved.
band was
they were great.
Yeah, and they were on stage. Part of it, just loved it. And then that segues into the last one you're doing is Young Frankenstein for the season.
Our Halloween show is Young Frankenstein. We've got one more main stage show coming up towards Christmas, but we are doing this one now, and then they'll transition into doing Every Christmas Story Ever Told.
Oh, okay.
The last one there of the season.
Oh, that's a fun show too.
It's it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to costume and set design for that one.
I won't put you on the spot, but do you have the cast on that yet?
The cast for that show, it's going to be directed by Jonathan Forrester.
Okay, great.
Which, if you've seen anything at Hendersonville Theater for the past several years, you know Jonathan's a great director. But the cast is Victoria Lambert, Tate Albert, and Christopher McLaughlin are the three that are going to step into.
So another show to look forward to. It's just a lot
it's
of
going to
fun.
be hilarious.
Show. And I won't put you on the spot on this one, but you were telling me off the air that there was another exciting event coming, I guess, in a night or two. You're going to have the reveal for the upcoming season?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, actually, which is the 22nd, what is today? We're going to have our season reveal at the Beer Garden, which is just down the road from Hendersonville Theater. And that's going to start at around 5:30 and go probably until the Beer Garden closes. I don't know. But we'll have a night of trivia, and you can compete to win some season tickets, and it's going to be really fun. We're going to use the trivia to announce the season. So each round of trivia will be dedicated to one of the shows.
Oh, great idea.
And we'll announce the season as the night progresses. So come on out if you're free. And trivia will get started around 6 p.m.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
If people want to know more about that or any of the other good stuff, Rowan, you've mentioned, what's the best way to get information about Hendersonville Theater?
Our website is hvltheater.org. It's a great place for resources. Victoria is she's artistic director, but she also does a lot of our marketing and web development and stuff. And she's always working hard to keep that updated. As well as our social media, Facebook, Instagram, we try to keep pretty updated. So anything that you're curious about, if you don't see it there, just shoot us a DM or give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'll get you the information.
And we should make sure that people have the right information. When they spell theater, you spell it how?
With the R-E, Theatre.
And I always ask that, is that either becoming the trend, or is that the right way to spell it, or how do you
It depends on who you ask. There are purists that would say that that's the way to spell it. I've always in my brain classified it as theater ER is where you go,
right?
But theater RE is what you do. So it's the art of theater is with the RE, whereas the theater ER is the building.
It's a good way to explain it. I guess the only problem is when people have a different spelling of the building, or
Sure.
some spell it ER, some
Sure.
people spell it RE. And so after we get through Young Frankenstein, anything else you can talk about? Future plans? Do we have anything you can announce yet?
Yeah, we will have another Readers Theater performance that's going to be happening in November, which is going to be A Doll's House, and that's going to be really good.
And by the way, let me just stop you a second, Allison. When you talk about Readers Theater, for the benefit of folks who don't know what it is, and also as a way to get people involved in Hendersonville Theater, talk about some of those activities, both Readers Theater and volunteers.
Yeah, so for Readers Theater, you audition just like you would for anything else in the season. The difference is this is a very short rehearsal process, and it's director to director. People do it differently, but it's usually just about a couple of weeks of rehearsals, maybe 10 rehearsals total, if that. That might even be more than. Yeah. And then they'll do basically, it could be a little bit of a staged reading, or it could even just be actors with books in their hands, doing a dramatic reading of whatever play it is. And it's typically we just have one performance, and that happens on, I think we've started to move towards more matinees on Saturdays, just because people seem to want a matinee more than they want to come at night. So, and that's a really great way to, if you are new to theater, or if you have time, which I will say this, rehearsals for Readers Theater do happen during the day, so you have to have daytime availability. But if you're interested in getting involved and being on stage, but you're a little nervous about it, or you maybe have trouble memorizing lines, something like that, Readers Theater is a really good opportunity. And like I said, again, it's a really quick turnaround, so it's not like you're having to dedicate 8 weeks to rehearsal period. It's just usually about 2 weeks.
As you mentioned, just as you mentioned, and so the real key is you don't have to memorize lines unless you want to.
Right.
So they're reading it. But on the same topic, so volunteers, aside from Readers Theater, I know you welcome other volunteers in the community to get involved with helping you folks out. What else are you looking for from volunteers?
Absolutely. We are looking, we are always looking to fill many roles within the theater, because if it doesn't get filled by a volunteer in the community, we end up having to do it. So especially like recently, we have found a lot of great scenic painters, which has been really awesome. But the more that we can get, people who are interested in costume design or can use a sewing machine, or people who can build sets, or people who know how to run sound or lights, things like that. I know anything, and we even welcome people who maybe don't know how to do those things but want to learn. We want to teach people so that we can continue to grow this community. And then if you're really not interested in doing something behind the scenes, but you just want to be a part of the community, I'm always looking for people to come usher, and work the bar, and work the box office. things like that. And I'm hoping once things kind of slow down after Young Frankenstein, it probably won't happen until the beginning of next year. My hope is to start having some training sessions where people can sign up to come, you know, get sign take quit what is it get certified to work at the bar, the concessions, do some training for box office, things like that, so that we can have people who really know what they're doing and understand our systems that we have in place and things like that, to volunteer. So it's not like you're just walking in and we throw you to the wolves. I'm gonna make sure everyone is knows what they're doing and feels comfortable. So there is a wide variety of ways to
Absolutely.
volunteer.
And
So
what's the best way to sign up for that?
so as far as getting in touch for working behind the scenes, we do have a link on our website, I believe, where you can fill out a volunteer application form, or getting in touch with either of us, but Rowan in particular, and your email address, I
My
guess.
email address is about to change, but at the moment it's Rowan Duncan at hvltheater.org. It'll change to Rowan Bishop in the new year. I've changed my last name.
Okay, but they can also see at the website, as Allison mentioned. That'll be
Yes,
all
I
the
think if you
contact
go to the
information.
Yeah,
website, there should be a link there where you can get in touch there for both backstage and for, I believe, front of house stuff. If you go onto the website, and I think my email is on there, as well as some kind of link, just click that, fill out the form. I will get an email either way and get you plugged into where you need to go. So
And we should mention one other thing you're alluding to a little bit about getting involved. How do people find out, for example, when Hendersonville is casting for an upcoming play, if they want to audition or find out about
Yeah,
that?
so we're actually in the process of planning our 2024
Sure.
auditions right now. And that date is not at the top of my brain, but I can find it.
I thought it was going to be on here, but I can't find it either.
We do season auditions. So instead of having an audition for each show, we'll do one big audition weekend for the whole year. And those auditions are going to be this year, they're going to be November 17th, 18th, and 19th. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um, so there will end up very soon being a registration online for those. And you'll sign up for a time and you'll come. We'll have some material for you ready to go. The directors for each show will pick out some what we call sides, which are just excerpts from the script, for actors to pick up and review. And then they can read with a reader that we have provided for them to read a scene to audition that way instead of like learning a monologue or whatever. And then for the musicals, they would also sing an excerpt of a song of their choice for us.
Now, that must be very tough for both of you in terms of being in auditions to narrow down people. In other words, of all the things you do, I would imagine that's probably one of the toughest things to do, to take a bunch of people and narrow it down.
It's honestly, our directors are wonderful. Most of them can have been doing it for a long time and can sit in an audition and kind of see who they might want to call back for their shows. I really, as production manager, my job is very much to act as advocate for directors and production teams. So I may be consulted on casting, but for the most part, that's up to the directors, unless there's a real challenge. Like for example, we've had some situations where this year where we might have cast a show and then an actor unfortunately has like gotten sick or has maybe had to emergency be out of the state for a family emergency or something, and we've had to recast a role. So I do a lot of the back end trying to help find people at the last minute and stuff like that as well. But our directors are really good about finding their casts.
And so the same question I asked Allison, anything else in your upcoming plans that you care to share or that people should be looking for?
Just keep your eyes out. Can I say Halloween?
Yeah.
We are doing on October 28th, which is after a performance.
Yeah, it's on the website.
Was that not supposed to?
No, it's on the website. We're good.
After a performance of Young Frankenstein at midnight on the 28th, we're going to do a movie showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So people can like get their little baggies of goodies. If you've ever been to a Rocky Horror show or a live show or a movie or shadowcast, It's very interactive. So we're going to do a little bit of an event like that this year. Just very fun little events that we're kind of peppering in here and there, to engage our community.
And that one does sound fun, but that's past my bedtime, so I don't think you'll see me at that one. Anyway,
Me too.
one last time, if folks want to find out more about Hendersonville Theater, both about Young Frankenstein, also we should mention one last thing, I'll turn to Allison on it, about youth programs too, right? You're doing a whole bunch of other programs as well?
So currently I don't youth programs sort of wrapped up, I guess, for the summer.
Okay,
But we do have education programs that are still ongoing. I just wrapped up my first tap class that I taught this year, just a week ago, I think. And I'll be having 3 more tap workshops over the next through the end of the year, which those are still, I think I have the first one just has a couple of slots left, but the other 2 have some slots remaining. And then I'll be teaching more tap classes at the beginning of the year. But then we also have an improv class, which is ongoing right now. So that's, unfortunately, the registration for that is closed. And then I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting any. I don't know if I'm forgetting any that are happening
Audition
this
workshops.
year. Oh, yes, we do have 2 audition workshops that are going to be happening, one for kids and one for adults. And those are actually happening. I think the adult one is happening pretty soon, like in the next couple of weeks.
I believe so.
And then I'm not sure when the children's one is, but I think you can still register for those. And basically that is just a little maybe a couple hour workshop where you can come bring your own material, and I think they're going to offer you material to work on as well. And the teachers are just going to help you learn how to audition better. And it's a really great learning opportunity if you maybe don't have a lot of experience auditioning and you want some practice, or maybe you have a lot of experience auditioning but like you just want some pointers on your material. It's going to be a really good time for that. So
and by the way, if folks go to the website, do you also have a mailing list that you send out stuff via email they can sign up
yes,
for?
you can sign up for that on our website as well.
It's a strong recommendation. I know I'm on it. It's exciting, so you don't have to check the website every day. It'll come whenever the email, but good stuff on that. Anyway, I want to thank you both for being my guests on this Blaine's World podcast.
Thank you, Blaine.
You both rock. Just every time I shake my hands, just listening to what you've done this past year, and look forward to Young Frankenstein and everything else. And I also want to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And we're signing off now, guys, but if you just stay with me, that'd be great. So thanks for being my guest.
Thanks, everybody.